I am having a ball, and I haven't heard anybody on any of the recordings that I've heard, which hasn't been for very long, talk about humor. And I would like to chew with you about laughter and how laughter is, in my perspective, seems very similar to crying. And is that a shift? I heard you explain crying. I thought it was excellent. Why we cry when we're sad or when we're with joy. It's a jump up the scale where we release resistance.
Well, they are exactly the same in this sense. Now, let's talk about the emotional scale. Love and appreciation and joy, frustration and overwhelmment, anger, fear, depression.
Right.
And up here in the good feeling emotions is your perception of freedom. Down here in the rotten feeling emotions is your perception of lack of freedom. Now, it's only a perception because you're always free. But when you feel not free, that's when the worst feeling emotions are present within you. So the way that crying and laughing are similar is that in both cases, it is a releasing of resistance and a moving downstream. So sometimes crying is being in a desperate place, and just crying releases some resistance and moves you in the direction of downstream. Laughing almost always moves you, in other words, when you're really feeling humor, it's always a downstream from where you are.
Because you're changing your perspective. And so it's kind of the same process, correct? Because you can cry to the point where you laugh, and you can laugh to the point where you cry. They're almost the same, it's a similar physiological
Well, let's just start with the idea that in either case, it's a releasing of resistance. So now let's talk about humor. So let's talk about someone trying to cheer you up, and you're not having any of it. And they think they're really, really funny, but they're not funny to you.
I've been on the other side of that, so. But
well, that's really why we're telling you this.
See, now you got me going.
Now that's funny. Because if you're not in the vibrational vicinity, Jerry and Esther have been laughing about this a lot. They have had, and many of you have too, the experience of recognizing that there's this cosmic humor, and we think this is what you're reaching for.
You have it.
But beyond words that Esther's translating, what we're wanting you to realize is, think about this. So the source within you knows who you are, who you really are, and where you are in relationship to who you really are, and is setting up circumstances and events to accommodate you in becoming that which you've asked for. So it's like we've seen the end to all of the movies. Now imagine being in a position where you not only know who you are in your physical form and what you want, but knows everybody else in relationship to it, and understands law of attraction, and understands that when you get yourself in a particular wavelength, the inevitable unfolding that's going to take place. And much of the humor that you feel, when you really feel it exploding within you, is because, and you said it earlier, you were right on it, in a sort of sudden one fell swoop, you managed to move, bang, into alignment with that broader view, and you got the cosmic joke, so to speak. You were able to suddenly begin to see it from that broader viewpoint, which made all of that other stuff that was going on, as you said, wisely and accurately and cleverly, irrelevant.
Did I say that? So why did the chicken cross the road?
Now let's talk about humor.
No, seriously.
Wouldn't you? Well, we'll tell you in a minute, or we suspect you'll tell us. But before we go there, let's consider this, and then let's see where we actually go together.
All right.
So the primary basis or tenet, the most important part of humor, is the surprise factor. So if you're moving around here and your source is moving around here, and then something happens that gives you the piece that you need to suddenly move here, there is that sort of element of surprise. We think that that's why so many of you like the drama of strong contrast. In other words, think about it. You could know what you don't want a little and know what you do want a little, and then since what you don't want is not a very big deal, it's easy for you to turn to what you do want, and so you achieve vibrational alignment with it and you get it, and then you know what you don't want and you know what you do want. Since there's not really a big difference in between, it's easy for you to think about what you do want and you get it. There's not much variation between the vibrations, so it's pretty easy for you to think about what you do want. So under those conditions, it wouldn't be a very big roller coaster ride. It wouldn't be a very dramatic life. It would just be steady, comfortable process. It would be a constant, steady unfolding. But when you really know what you don't want, so you really know what you do want, but you're really nowhere the vicinity of what you do want, and so now you're working your way up the emotional scale. When this comes into alignment, there's a bigger impact, and frankly, we think you all like the drama of it. We think you like the feeling of, I am the creator of my reality, more than, yeah, I create my reality. You like that sensation of that, and so in this process of humor, is that element of surprise. That is the most important factor. Jerry and Esther bought a new car last month, and they have XM radio in it that they have not been listening to before, and there's a comedy channel, and there's a lot of really old, not funny comics on that channel. And Esther's listening to it, and she says, I want to laugh, but there's no element of surprise because it's not leading edge anymore. The concepts aren't leading edge. The ideas aren't leading edge. Most of them she's heard a long, long time ago. They're just not funny to her anymore. That feeling of humor is like that feeling of alignment. And for it to really fly, you got to be out there in that new frontier, experiencing that new territory. That's why you want expansion. That's where the life is. That's where the sensation and zest of life is, you see. We really want to amplify that it matters not at all where you put your boat in the stream. You are where you are, and the stream's moving, and we would say there's as much benefit in the release of crying as there is in the other. In other words, we want you to no longer compare in a sort of standard way that it's so much better to feel these emotions than these emotions. We want you to say, it's good that I feel emotions and that I know what they mean, and I'm always reaching for the emotion of relief. That's what you're reaching for, the emotion of relief, because that means I'm moving in the direction of. It's nice when those manifestations begin to come, but just moving in the direction of them is nice too. And when you really think about it, you're always going to be moving in the direction of things that are to come, because you never stop launching more creations. The whole reason for existence is for the joy of life, not for the manifestation of things. You're not on this journey to get it done. There aren't things that have been assigned to you that you need to get done and that you will be disappointed if you don't get done. The whole thing exists for the pleasure of creation while you're within it. And that's why it is humorous to us, and don't take it the wrong way. It is humorous to us that you are killing one another as you argue over whose way of life is the right way, when there is not one right way of life. There's just life, and you all get to choose the way. No one else can threaten your way of life. You're worried about the terrorists, and you're worried about bombs, and you're worried about anthrax, and you're worried about things asserting themselves into your experience. And meanwhile, as you stew about all of those things, you give yourself warts on your eyes, and you give yourself diseases. In other words, you are the ones that are destroying your experience by worrying about what everybody else is doing, over which you have no control and have no business having your nose in their business, you see. If you tend to your vibration, you'll not only begin to live this zest-filled life, this humor-filled life, but when you start dancing with the cosmic angels, when you tap in, when you are close enough to vibrational alignment with that energy that creates worlds, the circumstances and events that will be arranged for you will knock your socks off. So the chicken crosses the road because there's always more to see, and he's been over here.
It wants to cross the road.